everyone, Tony D and Little Joan here on a Piney podcast. Today, well, yes, Joan, I'll pay you. Today, very low numbers, except, the one number. Only 11 deaths and less than 200 new cases. So things are really starting to disappear. But because, Phil is focused on this one number, the transmission rate, which, quite frankly, it's the one number he can fudge, I guess, because all he has to do is average the amount of times someone passes on the virus to other people. And if he only counts people who have passed on the virus one or two times, then he can keep the average up. That's what I suspect. I suspect this will all come out long after Phil's out of office. Oh, well, we'll find out. This is how we always find out things, right? It's long after the information would do us any good. We find out, oh yeah, he completely screwed us. But he's out of office now, so there's nothing we could do. Again, I'm not saying don't take some precautions if you're vulnerable to this thing, but my God, South Jersey's broiling. The virus can't survive in this heat. And I know, Florida. Keep throwing Florida in my face. Let me tell you about Florida. It's cases. Let me tell you something else about Florida. It's air conditioned top to bottom. Okay? You go into a building, it's air conditioned. It's freezing in some of the buildings in Florida, like actually freezing. They have amazing air conditioners. So it's no wonder that people are sick and that air flows around. If you got hotels, Disneyland opened up again. Plus you got these marchers. So don't tell me this BS like, oh my God, there's another virus. The death rate's still going down. That's the only thing that's important. If people aren't dying, if people aren't seriously hospitalized, we're down to like 140 people on any kind of serious condition here in Jersey. That number keeps going down. It hasn't gone up. It keeps going down. So why are the numbers going up? It's exactly what Trump said. It's the testing. There's more testing. They're finding the people who are sick, but they don't have any symptoms. They don't even know it. When you offer free testing for everybody, I haven't been, but I've certainly thought about it driving past the Rite Aid. Well, maybe I'll go get tested. Or if you happen to be in Rite Aid and they give you a free test, why wouldn't you take it? It's free. And if you just so happen, you find out you have the virus and you don't have any symptoms, guess what? You got a 2-week vacation coming to you because your work's going to say, oh, stay at home until you test negative, and you feel fine. So that's what people are doing to some extent. Now, yes, there are sick people and people have to be dangerous. Well, they're finally calling out some of these idiots for not locking down the nursing homes. Sweeney, who's in the New Jersey State Legislature, is finally calling out Murphy for that, but it's too little too late. Most of these people got wiped out. All right? All the people who died, most of them were in nursing homes. And, you've got the people who work in nursing homes too. And look, I think I told this story before. Someone I knew was in the nursing home. They were recovering because it was a recovering from injury thing and a nursing home. And let me tell you something. The conditions were horrific, in my view. I wouldn't call them barbaric, but they were pretty horrific. There was a lot of sick people, not enough nurses. It's just not enough money to help all these people. It's just not enough. And where's the money going? Well, it's going to keep healthy people out of gyms. It's going to trace healthy people all over the state for political grandstanding. It's going to keep businesses closed to kill the tax base. So I guess Murphy can ask President Joe Biden, if God forbid he becomes president, to rebuild the economy. That's where all our money's going. It's not going to the one place The one place you need top of the line money, medical prep, PPE, and air filtration systems. Okay? That's where he should have spent the money. If he had spent the money right there, if he had said, well, the science is clear. People of this age range are much more vulnerable to this. We're going to lock down all the nursing homes. We're going to turn them into space stations. There's not going to be a germ in their atmosphere when we're through with this. People going in and out will have to wear like space suits. If he had done that, he might have actually saved some people. He might have actually helped people. But he didn't. And instead, we're going to see him spend a ton of money covering it up. It's just like Christie, right? Christie covering up his mistakes in Sandy. That's what these guys do. They screw up and they don't come clean. There's no reason for. There's no upside to them coming clean. Their political rivals use it against them, and they have to fight. So why not cover it up ahead of time? Why not use the taxpayer money to cover it up? So the only other big news coming out of New Jersey, South Jersey, I guess, is there's a new bill, and it's a skilled contractor bill. It's a bit complicated. The number is S972. Basically, what the bill does is it forces refineries and certain other businesses to use only union skilled labor for their businesses. They can no longer contract out to non-union businesses, of which there are many in the state. They would all go out of business or leave, or be forced to join the unions. So before you immediately go, oh, unions, I support unions. Okay. How do you like teachers? Are they doing good? Do we have good teachers? Do we have quality teachers and quality educations? How about the cops? The cops are taking it on the chin these days. Those both have some of the strongest unions imaginable, and yet they always have all sorts of problems. Never enough training for the cops. Never, always teachers getting arrested for various horrible crimes against the children, if you know what I mean. Teachers you can't fire. These aren't merit-based systems. What the unions were for, the unions weren't to force to use government. Like that's what they've become. They've become like a tool of government. Either they force government to do things or government forces them to do things. And it's mostly Democrats who are tied into the unions. So they're supposed to be a group of workers get together, we're being treated unfairly, and they force the boss to give them a decent wage. That's not what it is anymore. Now it's all this, well, you got to pay all these union dues, you got to join the union. If you're not in the union, you can't work, and when you do work, it's heavily, heavily, heavily regulated. And good luck getting the work. And when the union falls apart, everybody suffers. Everybody suffers. It's better the other way. It's better to compete. It's better to have small businesses all over the place who aren't union, who fight for these jobs, because eventually the people who are good at their jobs, they get the work. And yes, maybe they don't get paid quite as much. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes look, I'm a freelancer. At one point, comics were paying big, and then suddenly they cut our pay in half. Cut it in half. It sucked. I still took the work. I would have liked to have kept the work, but if we had unionized, if by some miracle there could have been a comic book union, I'll tell you exactly what would have happened. I wouldn't have gotten any work because I probably wouldn't have qualified to be in the union, and the guys who would get all the work would be the same guys who get all the work. That's what unions do. They end up, I'll tell you another story. The guys who make, there was a very famous card game. I won't say which one, but I know the artist who worked on the card game. It was a fantasy card game. I think you know which one I'm talking about, world renowned. The first group of artists, man, they made a fortune because they paid royalties on the cards at first. And they were making money hand over fist. But right away, the artists got together and they sort of gamed the system. So only their friends could be in and make the cards, and then the next cards, well, only certain artists can make the cards, and then you had to know somebody to get in, and some guys dropped out, and some guys were making money and they dropped out, but it became this fight over the money. And then the company came in one day and they were making so much money, they said, why are we paying these royalties? And they redid all the cards, and they used guys who basically they could pay a flat fee of $1,000 an illustration and never have to pay them again. And everybody was driven out of the business, essentially, the artists. And some of them probably still work, but their money got cut considerably. They got greedy. Everybody gets greedy, including unions. But the difference is, once the unions are in, they're almost impossible to get rid of, because they're one of these entities that people think, oh, they only do good things. They only do good things. Yeah, sometimes they're corrupt, but generally they're good. No, they're not. Generally, people are greedy. And when it comes to unions and government, they're the absolute worst. So, again, write your state representative and the governor and tell them to vote no on S972. You can look it up online, go to the state legislature website, and do your own research and read the bill, because you're going to see a lot of businesses leave the state. They'll just leave. They could go elsewhere where there's no unions. And New Jersey will have a handful of refineries and whatnot, and they'll be super expensive, and we'll lose more tax base and more money. Yeah, you keep some workers and they get paid better, but then everything else goes up in price. If you've got 100 workers and they're not making that great money, but they're making a living, and then you come in and unionize, and then you're down to 10 workers who do really, really well, the other 90 go away. So do your own research, but S972 is the bill, and check it out. And that's it for the Piney Podcast.